But if you're not calling them or not making an effort to have them remember you, or meeting new people and being out there and being, out of your comfort zone sometimes, it's just not going to happen for you. You're not going to be, it's going to be much harder for you.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back. I'm your host, Kevin C. McIntosh. This is The Closing Table, and joining us on this episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Kristen Rabell. How you doing, Kristen?
Hello. I'm doing great, Kevin. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. I'm excited.
Thank you for accepting
the
invitation.
I love talking real estate, by the way. Okay.
Oh, well, this is the place for it, so I'll let you talk it all. But before we even do that, I like to kind of soften things up a little bit with a casual icebreaker, Kristen. This is called fill in the blank. I have a few sentences, all, real estate related, but they are incomplete. So I need you to fill those in with whatever context makes sense for me and our audience. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. First one. Blank is why you should buy a home.
Investment.
Great answer. Every real estate agent needs to know blank.
They can do it.
Simple. Blank makes clients feel more comfortable.
Compassion.
You're doing good, Kristen. Last one. Blank makes a neighborhood more valuable.
Homeowners.
There it is. You did good, Kristen. I like that. Right on the spot, too, right? Good job. Thanks for playing a nice little icebreaker with us, Kristen. We appreciate that. So now let's get into a little bit of who you are, first and foremost. I'd like to take this time, if you can, in 60 seconds or less, tell us who you are outside of real estate.
All right. Well, I'm Kristen Rabell. Outside of real estate, I'm a mother, I'm a wife. I love to garden, I love going to the beach, love travel, love playing, love hanging out with my friends.
There it is.
There I am.
All right. Appreciate that. That just lets us know that you do a little bit more than just take care of business. You are a family woman also, so we like to hear about that. All right, so let's get into where you are exactly in the market that you serve. If you can, describe your current market for us geographically. Paint that picture as to where you are for people who may have never been to your market, and then give us a little bit of insight into the real estate and what's going on economically there.
All right. Well, I am in Gainesville, Florida, which is north central Florida, Alachua County, the heart of the Gator-Nation. University of Florida and Shands Hospital are really the pride and joy of Gainesville. Truthfully, we would still be called Hogtown without it. So we love our students. We love our residents that come here to work and play at University of Florida and Shands. So we have a lot of doctors, physician professionals, healthcare professionals, and then people working within the university in all aspects of the university. So we are a university town. I think we're a really fun town. We've got gators literally on site at University of Florida. You can go to Lake Alice and look at real live gators, reptiles.
As in alligators.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and as in alligators. Okay. So we have a beautiful wildlife. We have a lot of beautiful wetlands, grasslands, springs, everything around. It's only about an hour and a half or less to the beach. You've got the Gulf side and the Atlantic side. So I believe we are in a perfect location. We're about 5 hours north of Miami and 5 hours south of Atlanta. So you can literally travel anywhere in the South pretty easily. Most people in Gainesville either have homes or tied to vacation homes in, let's say, you would say all the way down to Sarasota, which is on the Gulf Coast, but really mostly St. Augustine, which is about an hour and a half away, or Highlands, North Carolina, or up in the North Carolinas. So I can tell you, I traveled about 3 times this year in all parts of the nation, and I saw gators everywhere, as in Gator fans, as in Gainesvillians. So
okay. I'm thinking now, alligators everywhere.
I know. I had to turn that around. Now to bring it back to the real estate market,
Mm-hmm.
it has changed drastically.
Right.
University of Florida is way higher ranked than before. So we're up there with some of the best universities, at least in some of the programs they have, or many of the
Okay.
programs they have. So back in the day, you could go to Santa Fe College and easily get into University of Florida, and people could come in and easily buy condos, houses right on the university, near the area, and live there fairly cheaply, fairly,
Mm.
great investment wise, or just living in the area and going to school fairly easily. Now, not the case. It's really hard to get in.
Mm.
Top students come in, and so top money has come in. So our condos, right, are in about the 220s, 250s. Back in the day, it used to be like 70,000. Okay, so
Mm.
220, 250. Our average cost for a home is 350, but I can tell you finding anything under 350 is a challenge.
Right.
So, and those go really quickly still. And what's happening is we have a lot of investor buyers coming in, and I'll get deeper into this, but tons of investors are coming to Florida, and especially in our little towns. Now, we're not Tampa. Tampa is where they're going. If you read the news at all, Tampa is like the hottest spot in, definitely in Florida, but even in the nation, in
Really.
terms of high cost, beautiful homes, people moving there, loving there, and then also rents getting really high. I think they're up there with um, San Diego, San Francisco in terms of rent pricing
Mm.
per capita. So
Wow.
we're not Tampa. That's where really the market is hottest in Florida. But for a small town like Gainesville, I can't remember the population. I want to say 200,000. I could be
Okay.
wrong. You probably want to look that up and correct me.
Mhm.
We might be, we're higher than that now. I'm sorry, I did not look that up. But our average pricing being at 350, it's kind of in line with Tampa. So
Mm.
you're not going to get much cheaper
Really?
here. Now, what you won't have is those complexes or houses right on the water, because, like I said earlier, we're about an hour and a half away from
Right.
the beaches. We do have lakes and springs within, but outside of Gainesville more so than inside. So million plus were less than in terms of pricing and houses versus like these bigger cities like Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, things like that. But
Gotcha.
we do have quite a few multi-million dollar properties.
Mm.
And again, our average is right in line with Tampa, Florida, of being in the 350 range. Anything, like I said, under 350 goes real quick. You still
Mhm.
have multiple offer situations. You have situations where you have a ton of investor buyers coming in. There's a lot of cash. I want to say we're still around 40% of buyers are cash, and then you
Sheesh.
get from you get
Woo.
from 350 to about probably 650. That market is not going quickly. That market has gone from 3 to 7 days on the market to now about 30 to 60 days on the market. So depending on where you are in that range, but that one's taken a little longer. Now, I'm from a time where it was 90 to 120 days on the market. So 30 to
Mhm.
60 is not long,
Yeah.
but it is
Yeah.
long after about 2.5 years being multiple offers, quick off
Mhm.
the market, 7 days with the longest. So it's all perspective, right? But then when you get up 650 and above, 3 million, those actually go kind of quick as well. Now, I would say the
Really?
650, not as much as the 950 plus. Those are going very quickly also, and you'll see every once in a while cash buyers with those as well.
Woo.
So
Man,
yes,
what
the
is
middle
going on in
market,
Florida?
right, right, and that's
Goodness.
Gainesville. That is just
Yeah.
Gainesville.
See,
Mhm.
so you said a mouthful first and foremost. Okay,
I did,
three
sorry.
fifty. The fact that you even
Hopefully I
said
answered
three
your
fifty,
question.
no, you did. But the fact that you said 350, I was expecting a number way higher than that for Florida. But the fact you painted that picture for us, right? You said Gainesville, and I had no idea. Gainesville is basically like in the middle of Florida. It's not even like on the
More
shoreline.
central.
Right, right.
Nope,
So
right.
I kind of get it now. It's still kind of centrally located to some good areas, and the fact that you can kind of compare the pricing to Tampa, which you say is one of the hottest markets, not only in Florida but in the United States. The crazy person in me immediately thought, Tom Brady, what have you done? You are pricing people out of this area. That's crazy. But I mean, as much as I'm joking, I feel like that may have something to do with it, but I don't know. I'm not from that area, but
Yeah, they were
nonetheless, like,
moving here already.
okay, okay, good, thank you. So, but nonetheless, I mean, Florida still like. Can you speak to this? Are you seeing a lot of, and I feel like I can answer my own question. Are you seeing a lot of people in the retirement age? Is the retirement state still true that especially in the Gainesville area? Let me say that specifically.
Okay, so we don't have an astronomical amount of retirees moving here. That
Okay.
is more South Florida, South Central Florida. They have a lot
Mm.
more. I mean, Orlando. Have you ever heard of the Villages? It's right outside of, or sorry, Ocala. The Villages.
No.
Now that is a hot spot. There are some crazy stories about the Villages. That's where a lot of people go, and this is like its own town. It started off as its own little neighborhood, but now it's its own town. It's its own, I don't know, heart, soul, breathing mechanism, everything. We don't have that. A lot of people that retirees move out of Gainesville to go move down there because it is such a hot
Mm.
spot. I
Okay.
mean, it's got its own stores, everything. So, and again, a lot of retirees, they want to come to Florida for the weather, but
Hmm.
it's hot, right? So you want
Yeah.
to be near the beaches or the lakes and rivers. So when they come down, they're going down to South Florida to be closer to the beaches and closer to the other retirement communities. And we don't
Mm.
really have that here. And we need it. And there is one, we're in Alachua County, and our sister town is called Newberry. And they are trying to bring one into Newberry. It's just getting the right development working and the roads working. So I know there's been whispers of one coming there, but I don't know if it's actually as far along in the works as it should be, but I know they're
Hmm.
trying to get one closer because the closest again is 45 minutes to an hour away down in the Ocala area.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's
So
and now
no,
that you mention it, I should have known this. You said Gainesville's basically like a college town, so I don't see why retirees would be. I could see them leaving it, so that makes sense. So two other things in that regard. One interesting thing you said is it would have been called Hogsville still if the if
Hogtown, Hogtown.
Hogtown.
So we have a creek here called Hogtown Creek, and it just basically, veins through all of Gainesville, or the city of
Mhm.
Gainesville, and a lot of the developments are based off of Hogtown Creek. And so
Mm,
back before the University of Florida came in, it was called Hogtown, and the University of Florida came in, and eventually history, changes it to be named Gainesville, thankfully
interesting.
for the University of Florida. And Shands is the major hospital, that the public hospital that's off of the University of Florida. So it's also called UF Health,
Got you. Got you. Wait, it's called the who?
right? UF Health, like University
Oh,
of Florida
okay.
Health.
Oh,
UF
okay.
Health.
Thought you said something else. Let me let me take that back.
No.
Okay, so my second question to you is are we do the properties down there have a lot of land? By land I mean like property, like front yard, backyard with grass. I'm assuming that's not the case, especially for retirees. They usually don't like to do that type of work. So is it a Gainesville thing? Is it a Florida thing? Do properties have actual land? What's going on there?
So Gainesville, I would say, has more land than other areas. Not as much
Okay.
land as Ocala, which is it's our sister county. That's south
Mm-hmm.
of us, and that is horse property. So a lot. I mean, that's where John Travolta lives. Honestly,
Mm,
a lot of the $1 million, $1 billion horse farms and companies are down there. Almost every horse has ever won anything big, and I'm not a horse person, so that's why I don't know all the vernacular. But they're
right.
they're literally training in or living in Ocala. That is south of us, but we are
Okay.
Tree City. So the original Gainesville has good third of an acre land, and you'll have some neighborhoods that have up to an acre in Gainesville. Now, if you're going outside of Gainesville but staying in our county, yes, you can find Newberry, High Springs, Alachua. You can find, 1 to 180 acres out there, and there's going to be
Mm-hmm.
farmland because we are farmland. But in
Okay.
Gainesville, a third of an acre is pretty average. Now, when you get to newer construction, as you go south, most of Southwest Gainesville is where the growth has gone for about 20 years. The past 20 years, we've gone that way. And
Mm-hmm.
you're going to find a little bit less in certain areas, but it's still a quarter of an acre. I mean, I'm working
Okay.
in a subdivision right now for a new construction, for a new builder. I work for the developer and one of his sons. And so we work in a neighborhood in Gainesville about 4 miles from UF. So there's a lot of University of Florida personnel that live in this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is about 0.18 acre. So
Oh,
they're
wow.
small, but
Yeah.
they're still, you still have a backyard, you still have a front yard, your side
Right.
yard, you're right on top of everybody. But if you were to go down to South Florida to these, to the bigger cities, you're going to have, that is the average size of land, unless you've got the older homes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have a mixture of both. And then we have a lot of condo developments, which with condos you don't really own the land. You own
Right.
the
Right.
building.
Hmm.
Townhouses could own the land, but I would say at new construction in general, you're getting smaller and smaller because they want to put more houses on it. It's all about the
Yeah. Less about the land, more about the actual property, I guess, or the actual
right.
structure itself. That's how the industry works. But
But as long as
yeah,
you own the land, you have appreciation. You can tear down that house and build it up again. It's the
great
land
point.
that appreciates.
Great
Yeah.
point. Great point. Great point. You already
Hmm.
you already spoke on it before about investors moving to that
Right.
area and getting their hands, more involved into property and things of that nature. Can you speak on investors coming into that Gainesville area or even the Florida
Sure.
area and how you use your expertise in that market to help them find the properties that they're looking for?
Okay. Well, I think the investor mindset is getting bigger everywhere. I think, honestly, I do believe that our nation is becoming more of a rent nation. So a lot of people are, I mean, think about it. You go on podcasts, you go to listen, on YouTube and whatever, and everybody's telling you go invest. So I have a lot of younger people really thinking in that mentality more so than we did 15 years ago. I'm hearing I'm
Hmm.
I'm hearing 25-year-olds coming in and saying, "I want to invest." That was very rare. It was incredible, but very rare. But I hear it more and more now. And I think it's just out in the news. It's out in this idea of like, it doesn't matter how old I am, where I came from, anything about who I am. I need to be an investor because the reality is that if you own properties, you can either use those to invest more, right? They've risen in value
Hmm.
exponentially. And so people who were selling, they were selling properties and making almost double of what they paid for it. And so when people were seeing that, even though obviously when you went to buy, you couldn't buy it, it was a lot. I mean, before the rates changed, it was super easy. It's almost
Right.
free money to go buy a lot of investments. But I do think it's the mindset out there right now. So investors are coming from all over, every age, every background, every culture. And when I mean culture, I mean American culture.
Right.
Okay. Yes, culturally, internationally, yes, also. But there's more people coming in. And Florida has been a great place to invest because of our taxes. Now, Gainesville, we do have the highest taxes in the state of Florida for property taxes, but in terms of
Mm.
income taxes, Florida doesn't have any. So we've had droves of Californians, New Yorkers, like just
Yeah.
the bigger cities. When COVID happened, they dispersed. They all came down to Florida, but really more so to invest because they made so much money when they sold their homes. They could buy two to five with the amount that they made. And again,
Crazy.
so again, then you've got the weather. Then you have people flocking to Florida as they get older, and oftentimes they're just going to rent. They don't want to have to take care of a lot, so they'll come to rent.
Hmm.
At least that's the mentality. In Gainesville, being that we are a university town, most people that come here are going to be students, right?
Right.
Or residents going to, the University of Florida for their residency, right?
Mhm.
For medical. And so they might decide they're only going to be here 2 to 3 years, give or take their residency program, maybe 4 years. Everyone's thinking, well, they're still going to rent. Most residents do buy, but the mentality is that they'll rent. And some do rent. Then there's also people who are building. They need to rent a place maybe for that year that they're building. But we do have a lot of renters come in. We also have a lot of people come into the university to Shands, UF Health, because of a medical issue and they have to stay somewhere for either short term or long term. So if you have that investment property that you could rent out to these people who are coming and literally staying with their family or staying with someone and they have the money to rent. They're moving from their hometowns. We've had people that had to stay here for a year or 9 months and they're renting. And there's free programs for them or cheaper programs, but there's not enough of them. So they have to
Right.
find a place to rent. And so it just makes sense for people to come here to invest. So my expertise is that I've just been working in investments with investors my entire career of about 15, 16 years. Plus, I'm an investor myself. So I'm really good, especially with the new ones or the ones who know what they want. Because I literally just had, you want me to use examples? I am working with a buyer right now. He went to University of Florida. He lived here, so he knows Gainesville, but it was years ago. He's still
Mm.
young, but still, it was your, when you're in college, you're 18 to 22, maybe. He's
Right.
about 32. And so 10 years passed. Gainesville has changed. So he vaguely remembers the areas and he just wants an investment. He's great. He doesn't need to know the numbers. You know why he wants to buy? Because he just wants to own property.
Get some
He
skin in the
doesn't
game. Yeah.
care, right? He doesn't care if there's the return on investment as long as it's rented. And he knows it's easy to rent. He doesn't need the highest rent, he doesn't need the best because he just wants to have properties. One of my favorite, like, I love reading anything or listening to any podcast that talk about buying now is more important than waiting. Like,
Mm.
the rates have gone up, right? But I
Yeah.
still have buyers coming and saying, I don't care. I want to buy. They're leveraging their homes. They're leveraging whatever they have, their parents' homes, or they've saved money, or they get investment loans, and they don't care that the rates are 7%, that are 8 to 9% right now, because they know when the rates go down, they're going to they're going to get the new rates. Sorry, I can't remember the word right now, even though
There
I'm
you
in real
go.
estate. But and then they're gonna have cheaper, mortgage payments, and they're gonna own that property. So however long they own it for, as they own it, that their property is gonna increase in value, and then they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
leverage that property to get another. And so again, like I said, there's this younger, yes, it's still in the older generations, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they're starting younger to think about having a large portfolio because they do realize that investing in property, it's very rare that it's going to go down and lose value like it did in '08, that '08 crash. It's more than
Mm-hmm.
likely going to continue to raise in value. And as I told you, with our market changing and even with the rates going higher, our prices have not gone down. It's just
Yeah.
taken longer to sell, but our prices haven't gone down very much. And we're not going to
Mm.
see that regardless of the rates changing, the rates going higher. We still have, again, 40% of cash buyers. I am shocked with how
Yeah.
long the cash buyer has stayed in our area.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will tell you right now. I know you're asking about Florida. My sister lives in San Diego. I have three
Mm-hmm.
sisters. One lives in San Diego. She just bought a house. Now she's a physician. Her husband's a physician. They just bought a $1.4 million house, which is a cheap house there, right? They
Mm-hmm.
were losing to all. They lost about 12 houses to cash buyers,
Wow.
and it's
And
happening in Florida also. It's just a
wow.
different market there with the higher pricing of cash buyers. So there's a lot of cash out there. And all of these investors, now this one was from Tampa. He had a connection to Gainesville. He just wants to buy property. I love those because I don't have to do the math for them. If I have to do the math
Mm.
for them, I do have a program where I can go into, but we have to know everything. And the rates of insurance are getting higher. I don't know if you know what's going on with insurance in Florida right now, but it's ugly. It's tough, right? So it's way harder to just pick a number out of our back pocket for that. And then we do have high tax rates in Alachua County. So that's a little
Mm.
shocking to Florida buyers. It's not shocking to the New Jersey buyers. They're like, whatever. That's like dimes compared to our taxes, our property
Right.
taxes, right?
Yeah.
But you still have to have all those numbers. And,
Correct.
I have a little formula and you can get that online. You can even go, online now and get the free calculators for investors. But I don't love those investors because that's a lot harder. They're worried about the percentage, and you're not going to get more than, it's really hard if you're looking with a realtor. I shouldn't say this, but still, on the MLS to find a property that gets you more than your 10% return on investment today.
Mm.
You're really going to get 5 to 7.
Interesting.
If you're going to get higher, you're finding that either you have a really great realtor who's not investing and giving you those properties. Like I said, I'm an investor too, right? So if I come across something, I'm going to look at it first. And then I'm going to call my 10 really good investor buyers who I've worked with for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Some of them are other realtors. I'll still make money off of them, right? Some of them are buyers that have just worked with me for forever. And then I might go out to that person who calls me every once in a while and says, "Hey, do you have an investment?" Or Those are not on my top. I have 10 people that I work with. And I even
Mm.
have people out of California who call me all the time and say, and past coaches, people that I've known through the real estate industry, and they're like, anything you find off market, I want to see it first. Well, I let them see it after I see it,
Right.
right?
Rightfully so.
But
but
those, when investors call you, whether if it's off of Zillow or Trulia or whatever, they find your name off of your reviews,
Mhm.
just researching, and they find, I'll come up in best realtors. I pay my way through everything, but I also have a lot of great reviews, and I've been around long enough to know where to put everything so you find me easily. And they'll find me, and then they'll ask, "Oh, I'm looking for an investor realtor." We're all investor realtors. We
Technically,
all want to
yes.
find you something, but again, it's not going to be there. It's a waiting game. And if you
Mhm.
have a certain number that you have to make, it's probably not going to happen in this market because prices are too high. There's too much competition. There's too many cash buyers. And a lot of other reasons. So instead, you have to go into it as I want to buy my property now just to have rentals, right?
Mhm.
Because it's only going to get higher. Sure, the rates can drop, but it's only going to get higher in pricing or at least stay the same, maybe only rise a little. But just get that property, so that when the rates go down, or if you're a cash buyer, but you're still going to have a great investment, and then your return on investment in terms of your rental income will rise each year. It
Right.
might not be what you want the first year. You just have to look at the math. But I work with investors all the time, and that's really who comes in here. There's first time home buyers, investor buyers, and then you'll have your people just moving to Gainesville because they have
Right.
to move here for UF, for, again, for the hospital, and then for whatever other industries are around here. Because we do have a lot of, there's Amazon and Publix and Walmart that are here,
Okay.
but mostly it's Shands and the University of Florida.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
So,
To speak on your point about some of the young buyers and investors,
mhm,
I think that just speaks to the age of information that we're in. I mean, people can get information from TikTok, and a lot of people are taking action just from that alone. Now, whether or not it's completely accurate is a completely different topic. But the point is, I mean, you can go on Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, Threads nowadays, and you'll
mhm,
find posts of people giving out information, and people are literally jumping on top of it nowadays. So I mean, I love it. The more information, the more knowledgeable people are, the more they can make, better choices. But essentially it just makes the market a little bit more saturated, a little bit more competitive overall.
yes.
So linking with the right professional like yourself or your team is the way to go, especially in your market, just to put that out there.
Well,
Kristen,
I
I
want
want to
to I
talk,
want to speak on. Oh yeah, go
please.
ahead.
No, no,
Okay,
please,
I was going to
please.
speak on something else. So, first time
Hmm.
home buyers, have you heard of the Hometown Heroes program here in Florida?
I don't think
This is
so.
fantastic for first time home buyers. And I'm going to explain to you what a first time home buyer is. Now, it's only
Okay.
for Florida buyers, okay?
Hmm.
You haven't purchased a home or owned a home, or you haven't purchased a home for 3 years, okay? So, you might be selling a home that you bought 7 years ago,
Hmm.
but you could be a first time home buyer because that purchase was so long ago that that everything's changed. The lending programs have changed, loans have changed, everything has changed. So you're considered a first time home buyer again
Right.
if you bought 7 years ago. Okay. So
Ah.
you don't, it could be a 85-year-old who's bought 25 houses, but if they haven't bought in the last 3 years, they're considered a first time home buyer. And
Wow.
this is for everyone who is a veteran that uses a VA loan. The government in July 1st gave $100 million to Florida first-time homebuyers and veterans, so that each buyer had up to 35,000 in down payment assistance. Now they can only, I don't remember the exact amount, but you can't make more than like 123,000 and change. You have to have a
Mhm.
640 credit score, which is not that great.
Right.
640, that's all. And again, you have to be a first-time home buyer or a veteran, and you can use this money up to 35,000 for down payment assistance and or
35,000.
closing costs. You can get in a home for pennies, for
Yeah.
nothing if you use this program. You just have to fill out the paperwork, work with a lender who knows this program. If you're a veteran, even if you own another home, you can still use it because they give this to all veterans. But you just have to use your VA loan. So it is a phenomenal program. Now, granted, it's only July 18th, And last
Uh-huh.
I heard, they already used 26. So they already used a quarter of it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this was supposed to last the rest of the year. It's probably only going to last for about 8 to 10 more weeks,
Yeah.
according to the numbers, how it's going fast. But that is phenomenal because a lot of these first time home buyers, remember I said anything under 350 is almost not, is not there because the
Correct.
investor cash buyers are buying those. And so
Mm-hmm.
those, the first time home buyers just don't have, they might be able to get an FHA loan with 3.5 down, or maybe a conventional loan with 5% down. But if a cash buyer comes in, because it's still multiple offer situations, then they're not going to win it because that cash buyer is almost always going to win over the
Yeah.
conventional and definitely over the FHA loan, right? And even the VA loan, which is not a bad loan at all, it doesn't mean they're a low income buyer. It just means they're using their 0%, 100% financing loan from the VA, from the
Right.
government. But a lot of people have this sour note about VA loans when it could be some guy who makes, you know, 700,000 a year and he's just using his VA loan because he's a veteran,
Because it's a yeah,
right?
because it's there.
And so, but a lot of people just don't realize that. But anyways, that being said, these people who might not have a lot of money and want to look better, they can by using this money to get in houses. And that's why 26 million have already been used, right? In the first
Mm.
18 days, 18 days. So first time home buyers have like an incredible program right now, thanks to the Florida government, which not everybody loves right now. But at the same time, they are trying to help first time home buyers. I'm not getting into politics,
No, I
okay?
get it. I get it. 35,000 is crazy. I thought you made a
Yeah,
mistake and meant 3,500.
5%, no,
35,000 is
5%
crazy.
or 35,000, whatever's more. Yeah. Now,
Woo!
granted, here's the one thing. It is seen as a second mortgage. So there are going to be lenders who hate this program, but
Ah.
it's a second mortgage behind your mortgage with no interest. So if you borrow, say you only can borrow, you only need 18,000 of that. You're going to pay your mortgage on the rate, right? And you're going to pay your interest and everything off of that, right? Which is going to
Mhm.
be probably 2 or 3 times more than you borrowed, but you're
Mhm.
still only paying 18,000 on your second mortgage.
Oh, wow.
There's no more than what you purchase or what you
Not a
borrow.
not a bad deal if you
Not
ask
a
me. Not at
not
all.
a bad deal if you need that money because there's
Correct.
no
Correct.
interest on it. Right. Yeah.
Correct.
So I had to
Nice.
plug that
Nice.
because I think it's a phenomenal program. Never heard of anything like that before. It used to be
Oh,
Hometown Heroes, which is just for certain people, police officers, firemen,
right.
firefighters, teachers, things like that. But this
Healthcare
is for
workers and
any
things like that.
healthcare workers,
Right.
right?
Okay. Yep.
Right. But
Okay.
this is for any first time home buyer, which is, yeah, it's really fantastic because we were noticing that first time home buyers that were not these, in these, let's say someone who works at a restaurant, right? Someone who
Yeah.
works at they're working for a car company, they're a mechanic, first time home buyer. They don't have any program for them, nothing. Nobody
Mhm.
cares about them. But
Yep.
this allows them, they might have saved enough money for a down payment, or they might have a great credit score and they're making less than 123,000, but they still can't buy a house. This helps them buy a house. So,
Mm. Nice,
yeah,
nice. Well said. Thanks for bringing that up too for myself and the audience. Give us something to learn and to look into a little bit more.
for sure.
You spoke that you've had a very lengthy career, still going on, very successful. I want you to take us back and talk about some of the key mistakes that you may have made earlier in your year. I mean, earlier in your career, and what you've learned from it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. I started in '06, 2006, which was when the market started changing, drastically. And I could
Mm-hmm.
say the best thing I did, I don't really look back on mistakes as much because if you do, then you're just like overwhelmed with all the problems you had.
Great
I
perspective.
quick, yeah. So I like to look at the bright side of things, but I quickly partnered up with another newish realtor. She was not from the area. I'm actually from Gainesville. I'm a fourth generation broker.
Okay.
My parents are actually, my dad is actually from Cuba. So,
Mm.
which is probably where this positive mindset came from because they moved here in '58 and he was 8 years old and had to go through a lot of adversary. Back in Miami, that wasn't a Cuban town like it is now. He was
Mm-hmm.
there before anybody knew who Cubans were. Nobody knew Spanish. It was actually a very Jewish town. If you look back in the history of Miami, you'll know that. And they came here. My grandmother, who brought us up, she was a professor a teacher. And she actually started a television show to teach Spanish to little kids. And my dad was one of the actors and his brother. So they acted on this like local television show out of Ocala. And then the University of Florida brought her in as a Spanish teacher to work at a school. It's a K through 12, but it's a laboratory school.
Mm,
University of Florida and Florida State University have schools like this, and so
okay.
they learn what to bring to public schools. What are the greatest programs and ways to teach kids? They sort of we're the laboratory rats. They're sort of the ones that they learn that at these schools because everyone who's teaching there has to have a graduate degree and come from a university program. And so teachers or students that are learned at the University of Florida or at Florida State, they are also teaching at these schools that are the laboratory schools for the University of Florida. Anyway, so long story short, my grandfather couldn't speak a lot of English, and so he worked for the University of Florida. He had he and my grandfather were brokers down in Cuba, and they
Mm,
sold for the government. They bought and
mm,
sold land for the government. Well, the government turned, right? So we were one of the first Cubans to come to Florida, and he couldn't get obviously couldn't do the same thing here. So he ended up
right.
getting his license and
Mm,
working under a lady who was the very first and only Spanish speaking realtor here for 20 plus years. So everyone coming from any Spanish speaking country would come to him and buy a house from him. So
wow.
the lady ended up retiring and he became the broker. My dad
Wow.
had been in the army, was living out in Arizona. He said, "Get your butt over here. Where you're going to get your real estate license, and we're going to run this company." So they ran a local company for years. My grandfather was their salesperson, and my dad he didn't really like sales, but he was really good at accounting and really good at just managing everything. So he became the property manager. They ended up having about 800, 900 properties in their heyday, and my grandfather
Mm,
still sold to all the Latins that came, all the Spanish speakers that came from all over. Now, nowadays, there's more Spanish speaking, realtors here, and he's since passed. But me being a third generation realtor here, but fourth in general, I sort of already knew what it was like to be a realtor, right? I knew that it was cyclical, there were cycles, and I knew when I went in that I was going into a really tough market. So I just saved every penny I could. And again, when I saw this other realtor coming in, she had really great marketing prowess. She just didn't know anybody, and she was kind of shy. I I'm a talker. She was shy. Now it's changed. She's a talker too. But I just decided, let's go ahead. Marketing is really expensive. The market is
mhm.
going, people were leaving in droves. Let's become a team and just split everything evenly and we'll just work through this. That was probably one of the best decisions because a ton of people who started when we started quit or they formed their own teams or became members of other teams that were already around. So that was really fantastic. What I probably could have done better was that's a hard question. I mean, I really loved my career and I've loved what I've done my whole time. I really got into self-marketing. We knocked on doors. We talked to every for sale by owner in town. We did all the things you're supposed to. We took a class called Sweat Hogs. They don't have it anymore. It's the greatest class ever. They made us get out of our comfort zone and do all the cold calling. I can tell you, I know that agents don't do it and that you see everything on YouTube and TikTok. Don't do this instead.
Right.
When you get out there and get in front of people and have someone tell you no 100 times before they say yes, you just get tough skin and you don't care about
Yeah.
no anymore.
Yeah.
No doesn't feel bad. It's like, whatever, on to the next.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you learn how to work through it. When you get I'll tell you, my first yes, it was a listing in a neighborhood called Hale Plantation and the condo called the Links. I'll never forget that. We walked up this man's step. We sat down with our folder. We had a listing book, things that we created ourselves. We took some from the company, some from ourselves, and we sat down and talked to him. He was like, "Yes, I want to list." We didn't know what to do. After 100 no's, we didn't know what to do. We were so
Right,
excited. We're like, "Oh,"
right.
we weren't ready for it. We were just
Almost embracing
going through
for
the
another
motions.
no.
Right. So that, when that opened the floodgates of yes, it just became easier. So,
Mm,
going back, I guess investing more. There we go. Back to
I love
investing.
it.
I
I love it.
wish I was out to sell for other people, right? Out to be everyone else's realtor. I bought and sold, but I wish I would have bought and sold fast or bought faster and quicker and more. And I say that every day.
Mm,
That's why I love reading the
yeah,
books and love helping other young, whether it's realtors or buyers, when they come to me and they're young, 25, 26, I'm like, let's do it. Let's go and find you an investment now. And let's get it out of your mind that you can't do it. Let's go do it because nothing is going to be better for you than owning property.
yeah. I
And
agree.
they love that I will push them forward and help them see the numbers. I don't want to do the numbers always for them, but just really show them why this property would work for them and why it wouldn't.
Right.
So I'm very candid with my all of my buyers and all of my sellers. I let them know what's up. This is what's bad about this property. This is what's great about this property. But I leave it for them to decide. But I give them all the information I have, and I know there's you. It's right now we're getting all of the information ourselves. Like you said, you listed
Hmm.
everywhere where you can get information. I do have a couple of buyers, and they're usually the older ones, who say, "Oh, I already can figure out everything before you can." No, you can't. I still have more knowledge than you. I'm
Right.
sorry. This is what I do every day. I know most of these neighborhoods. I know who live there. I drive by
Hmm.
houses all the time. I sold that. I call them my babies. All my family, my kids make so much fun of me. Oh my gosh, another one of your babies, right? You know, and you know the neighborhoods, you know the builders, you know the developer,
Yep.
you know everything when you've been in for a long time and you've sold. There are realtors who may have been in for 20 years, but maybe they were focusing more on just their properties, doing things that, like I said, I could have done more.
Right.
Or
Right.
they're not really high producers. You can be 20 years in the market or whatever you do, and you're not a high producer, or you're not the best, right, of the best. You're not really giving your heart and soul to everything. That just means you've been 20 years in the business. But if you've been 20 years in the business and you are constantly learning more, doing more, and again, in real estate, closing a lot of deals, you're seeing everything. So you're able to
Hmm.
ebb and flow and change and transition. You're able to see things before it happens. So yes, I do know more than you. I don't know more than another realtor per se, but as just a buyer who's bought, you know,
Right.
5 houses, 2 houses, you get that sometimes because 'cause they're so
Hmm.
worried, "Oh, I have everything. I don't want you to help me." Let I'm gonna tell all buyers right now, don't be like that. Find one realtor and let them help you. Don't
Yeah.
call every realtor because you might be calling on somebody and they might be answering your call because they have nothing else to do. You do want the realtor who has a little bit of information. It's okay to work with a newbie as long as that newbie is giving you their attention and has someone behind them, whether a broker or a mentor or another realtor or someone else in their life that can help them because there's a lot more than just writing up
Hmm.
a contract. There's a lot more to that. I actually, so we are Rabell Realty Group. I opened my own company in 2015 with that business partner. So we own it together. The one that
Hmm.
the girl that I started working with as a team back in 2007, 8. And we call ourselves the Rebellions. It's
Nice.
after Star Wars. They came out. The Disney one came out. I was
Nice.
like, that's
It's
pretty
only
cool. We're
right.
the
Yeah.
Rebellions, right? So we have a booklet. It's 2 pages, and it's for people who question, why do I need a realtor? And it's called 99 Problems and the Rebellion Isn't One, based off a great song. And there's literally 99 issues that can come up that I already know how to deal with because I've already seen them all.
Yeah. 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 That's why you're
I
the
can tell you.
professional.
Right. And again, I told you before recording, your first 1 to 3 years, doesn't matter how many you sell, you're still learning, you're still new, okay?
Yes.
You're
Yes.
learning all these different personalities, different programs, changes in market, changes in the way people work, other realtors, buyers and sellers, whatever it is. You're learning all of that. You're learning all the ins and outs of being a realtor. Between, you know, 3 to about 7 years, you're really like grasping it and you're rocking and rolling and you know what you're doing
Yeah.
and you're feeling good and everybody knows you. You're either at the top, like one of the top realtors, or you're a really good realtor. everybody knows you. Now, granted, if you're in an area like Miami, where every third person has a real estate license,
Uh,
I'm not talking about all of them, but all the working realtors know you. All of the association, your association membership, they all know you. You've been to enough. The good lenders, the good title agents, the newbies, they all know you, right? Then you get to 7 to 10 years or a little beyond, and
mhm,
you're just, you know what to do no matter what.
mhm.
Nothing is hard. And right now the market is harder than it's ever been. People are just so flustered up, and there's just so much, I don't know what it is, but like anxiety with people. And I think just
Yeah.
after COVID, just people don't know how to be people anymore. And you can find this in any industry. You can go into a to the restaurant, to a mall, or a store, and you can see it in people. But in real estate, we really see it. These are the people, most of them only have one house, right? They're not an investor, they don't have a bunch. This is the most expensive thing they own, the most money they'll ever
Mhm.
see move out or into their bank account. So it's very intense. So there's a lot of people that it's just writing on everything for them. And I've seen so many people just cancel or have panic attacks over things that never before have had it. So it is harder than ever before. But my newbie agents, so I'm the team leader and broker, my newbie agents come to me, and they're in a panic also. Like, we hold a lot of weight on our shoulders, realtors do. We need a lot of therapy
Mhm. Yeah.
or vacation, we need a time for ourselves. And a lot of times, if we're workaholics like I've been, you're not going to always give time to yourself. But you we have a lot of weight on our shoulders because we want to do the best for you as our buyer and as our seller, and we want to make it all happen. It's not all, yes, there are going to be people that it's about the money. It's not always about the money. It's actually about giving you a good experience so that you love us again, so you come back or you talk about us. Because the only once we close you, we need to keep on going to the next one. So we're constantly wanting
Yeah.
to make you feel good and make it a good experience for you. At least that's me and how I teach my realtors to be. But
Yeah.
they're all worried about everything. Everything is a mountain when you're new. That first
Yeah.
to 1 to 3 years.
Of course,
But
of
again,
course.
after you get a certain point, that nothing is a mountain. There's nothing astronomical. It's all fine. And I always have to tell my realtors, it's okay. Just breathe. We'll get through this. Either we're going to find out, again, 99 problems. It's not one, none of them are me or my realtors, because I teach them how to find out the answer, even if it's thinking outside of the box. How can we deal with this so that our buyer and seller can get to the table and they're happy and fine with what happens? And not everybody, it's not perfect all the time, and it's okay if it's not perfect. You can't over let it overwhelm you or shame yourself for it. You just move on. Some people are just, they're never going to be happy.
Correct.
They're always, but you're doing everything you can so you can get that good review so somebody else can find you so you can continue your business.
Yeah, no, that's well said, and I'm so glad that you elaborated on those phases of the real estate agent because I'm not a real estate agent, but I've interviewed so many on a closing table. I feel like I know almost that same process, and I mentioned it on a few episodes before. Like 1 to 3 years is when you're just getting your feet wet. It's
Hmm.
generally when you just start to build your clientele, right? Then at three to
Right. Yeah.
five, like you said, you're probably just getting over the hump. Maybe some of your, clientele are giving you some referrals. Then like the 5 to 7, you're still working. And then the 7 to 10 years is usually what they say if you're working consistently is mastery. If you put
Right.
in 10 years consistent, 40
Hmm.
hours. So that usually gets you to that mastery aid or that mastery. So that makes sense. That 7 to 10 year, by the time you put in that work, you get to your clientele, they start to come back, they start to refer other people. So then it's kind of like a well-oiled machine at this point. Then you go through, then I think the typical cycle is usually like 7 to 10 years also.
Hmm.
So then you experience different cycles. So everything you said, it started to paint the picture and it makes sense. So you connected those dots with that timeline. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
I want to speak on other obstacles specifically that you even had to go through yourself, right? As a marathoner and
Okay.
leukemia survivor. I want to
Yeah.
applaud you for that first and foremost.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um you've obviously had to overcome those challenges. So how do these personal qualities translate into your work as a real estate agent? Second part question, can you share an inspiring story where a client faced obstacles dealing with their home buying or selling, and then how you help them overcome that also.
All right. Well, I have a ton of stories, but okay. So, as a leukemia survivor, I actually ran marathons during leukemia.
Oh
During
wow.
I had to do 2.5 years of pretty pretty tough chemo and then also radiation. And I remember one of the doctors coming in and telling me, "You're too young. You need to get up and run." And so I went and signed up for a marathon. And
Mm,
so before that marathon, I ran 5Ks. I ran all the smaller ones, but I practiced and ran with a small team who helped me with marathons. Now, after a few years, I stopped running the marathons. I didn't really need to do that anymore. Plus, I got into real estate. So this was
right.
all before real estate, where
Right.
I went through leukemia. But really, I think it just makes you meet where your end point is. Right. I was lucky to survive. I did meet other people who went through it that did not survive. And,
Mhm.
I remember many of them. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Whew.
Take your time.
So I was happy to survive. So when you know you can survive a near death experience and you're the lucky one, again, nothing like scares you, you know. Yeah, snakes scare me. I don't
Yeah,
really,
I
sharks scare me,
bet.
but I'll still,
Alligators.
right? Alligators scare me, but as a Floridian, you got to deal with them every day.
Right, right,
So
right.
they don't, if shoot, if leukemia didn't take me, down, then these things aren't going to take me down. I actually go swimming. My kid's a surfer. He's 12 and he does surf camp, and I love it because he gets out there. I was raised in the time of Jaws, right? He gets out there. I'm
Oh,
like, so what
yeah.
do you do if you see a shark? He's like, I don't know, keep swimming. That's sort of what
Whew.
leukemia does for you. You just
Mm.
keep swimming, you keep moving
Mm.
on. Yeah.
Good
So
one.
you're just you just have to, again, the for sale by owners, that or the door knocking, all the no's. It just doesn't really bother you. And I can't say every day is perfect where my head space is in the best place. There are days that you're just a little less with it. You need a
Yeah.
little bit of the Brene Brown in your life to tell you to keep going, or put on some podcasts to get you hyped up, or good music,
Mhm.
or hang
Mhm.
around positive people to get you hyped up again, or go take a yoga class or go for a run, something that gets you feeling good again. But really, having that, it just helped me realize life is beautiful. You only get one.
That's a
Just have
fact.
fun and do it. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and give your everything to whatever you do. So, that's why when you ask, like, what could I've done better? Sure, it was investment, because as a realtor, I know I gave everything as a realtor. My biggest thing about being a realtor, like, I have like synergy, heart, and hustle are like three words that we use at our company. Synergy is working well with others, right?
Mhm.
Whether that's the other realtor, the title company, the lender, the insurance agent, I mean, we have a lot of people that are involved with this, and you really got to get along with them so that your
Oh, yeah.
customer, whether you're working with the seller or the buyer, doesn't even know what's going on, and they just think everything's wonderful for them, right? And so when they see that nothing, when you're not telling them or when you're getting along with everybody. And plus, I don't want to go through something because I've stepped on the toes of another realtor. I don't want them to have a bad experience with me. Now, also, you have to have compassion. Remember, I talked about that.
For sure.
If someone else, in these many people that we encounter, if they're having a bad day and they don't really realize how they're affecting other people, I try to instead think all the curse words I can, right, about them. I mean, committing the felony, right? I just really sit back and go, they must be having a bad day. What is
Oh,
going
yeah.
wrong with them,
Mhm.
right? Because I can be like rough if I'm having a bad day. But if I get compassion from the other side with somebody going, hey, man, what's up? Hey, girl, what's going on? That feels so much better. So I try to do that for others also.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if like the buyer or seller, I try to bring them back and go, What's going on? What are the thoughts that you're having that are making you feel this way?" So that
Mm.
synergy, like just getting everybody to work well, so that we're not, again, there's a lot of emotions involved with this. So we're not getting too emotive ourselves, so that we
Right.
are reacting to things that we don't need to react to, right? Because
Yeah.
too quick of a reaction can be a bad thing,
Oh,
if
for
it's not the
sure.
right reaction. So, and then heart, if you don't love what you're doing, why are you doing it? And I don't mean go out there and, I do think that there's a little bit of this that I do think is silly because I do know a lot of people are quitting their jobs because they don't love it, and it's like, what are you going to do? You do have to still work, okay? You do still have to put forth effort into something, and if you don't love it because every day you're miserable, then yes, quit. But if somebody made you mad one day and you're just quitting to quit because they made you mad, don't quit for that. Like you do have to put your efforts into it to make it yours.
Hmm.
But I love real estate. I love talking about it. I love working with other realtors. I love the environment. I love that I meet different people from different cultures, different places, different backgrounds every day. I didn't know plumbers and electricians and these tradesmen before. I'm female. I just it's not like people I hung out with. I don't know, maybe that's the wrong thing to say, but I just
I
wasn't
get
hanging out with them all the time.
it.
But now, like some of my favorite people are these people that I've met, through this industry. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a septic tank guy. He plays in poop all day. He's a great guy. I love hanging out with him. Not anyone I would ever know. And then, and then there's just people in different, I mean, speaking with physicians all the time. Some of my best friends own, companies that have to do with healthcare. And I mean, it's just
Hmm.
beautiful how many people and again, cultures you encounter. And so you get to know like specifics of cultures. You're like,
Right.
okay, this is, I know this, so I understand it. So I understand what I'm working with, but they could still shock you and surprise you with something new.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
No day is the same. No transactions the same. Everything's different, and the different curveballs that you can get thrown at any time too. So
Right
it's
now,
good that.
granted, I feel like I've had every curveball. I might not
Yeah, I
always know when
bet.
it's coming, but
Hmm.
there's a form of it that you've already had after so many years. So when it comes at you, you're like, oh, okay, I see what you're giving me, but I already know how to deal. You know,
Right. Exactly.
I got my
Exactly.
curveball coming back. Don't you worry.
Right, but especially in your market, because that's where you're the professional, you're the expert in your county and in your market. You've experienced all different types of trends, changes, dynamics of the local real estate market. Can you share a story that exemplifies your ability to adapt and provide valuable insights to clients during these shifting market conditions?
I mean, sure, when I don't just wake up in the morning and go say I'm going to go list this house. Or work with this buyer. I do every day teach, learn, and I'm a part of many, many different groups so that I can continue to learn for my customers so that
Hmm.
I know what's going on. So, I mean, we'll just go back to that first time homebuyer program. If you're not listening to the market, there's also new things with our contracts. If you don't know this, then how are you going to know how to deal with something that comes along?
Exactly.
Okay. So, we're not going to use what happened now because it's too political, but
Okay.
and it's something that started in July 1st. But say when the escalation clauses started coming in,
Oh.
or any of the changes with how the real estate market was changing because multiple offers were coming in. Multiple offers I had already dealt with before. I
Hmm.
loved years ago before the multiple offers. I had a really fun story. This one buyer was buying a house for her son who was at the VA in, I believe it was Vegas, and he was coming to the VA here because we do have a VA hospital here in Gainesville. So he was moving here. He's 37 years old, older, but she was taking care of him. A lot of things happened to him when he was, when he worked, in the military. So he needed the VA hospital. So she bought a little property for him, and then about 18 months later, super short time, she went to go sell it. And
Hmm.
she wanted to use me again because I was her buyer's agent. So I went to go help her sell it and I priced it. I looked at the market and I've always been really good at what we call the CMAs, the comparative market analysis,
Hmm.
really like
Hmm.
checking out everything, knowing all the numbers, having a guideline that I follow. When I get appraisals, I eat appraisals. I read every appraisal like it's the best book ever. Like I will read how appraisers look at things and value things. And so that's why my comparative market analysis has always been really good. Also, my very first company, there was a guy that was a realtor, but he also used to be an appraiser. I used to pick his brain like none other. So I could just think how appraisers think and what they're looking for. So I could go in and give a really great analysis. Now, some sellers don't want your actual numbers. They want some pie in the sky number, so
Uh,
you work with them and, however you work with. But she asked me to price her property. So I priced it. I ended up getting two offers. Again, this was way before the time of having this and way before what everybody's doing now. I already instinctively knew this. So these two realtors come to me and they bring both offers, which is again was very rare at the time. So one was at list price, right? Perfect
mhm,
offer. The other
mhm,
one was 10,000 under. I said,
mm,
"Hold on. You want me to get you the best offer, right?" So I went to both of them and I said, "Bring your highest and best." The person who was 10,000 lower stayed at their same number. The person who was at list price came up.
oh.
They wanted that house. I wasn't their realtor. They came up 5,000 above list price. I walked on water for that lady. And I felt so good for so many years because I got her 5,000 over the list price of her house. 18 months later, she
That is
made money off
crazy.
of that. And
That is
actually she didn't
crazy.
make money because it does, but it she didn't go, she wasn't losing any money. And that was back before when the average ownership price or ownership period was 5 to 7 years. It's gotten lower. It's about 18 months to 3 years now. We have people all the time in
Really?
that price range. We're a transient town. Okay, so people are moving all the time. But that was back in the
I get
five
it.
to 7 year. This
Mhm.
now it's way faster. So that was, my knowledge of the market and what people are doing and how to work and how to negotiate with people is really what defines me and how I work. So when the market changed and there were these, multiple offer situations, I had already experienced how good they could be. So I was already ready for it. Plus, I'm a member of the association and I'm on some boards. I work with them a lot. So I make sure I go to all the classes that are needed necessary to know these things. So, our association is called GACAR, Gainesville Alachua
Mhm.
County Association of Realtors. We have a couple of members who are high in the real estate political world. So I just go talk with them and I make sure I go to the right classes and figure out what wording that's created by attorneys, not myself,
Right.
to
Mhm.
use to aid in this. And so that we're ahead of everyone. We're ahead of everyone as they're creating addenda and how to market everything. And so then I teach it to my realtors. So we were some of the first small company, by the way, 25 realtors is not a large company. We're one of the first ones to already have everything defined and ready to negotiate with. So we already knew the
Nice.
appraisal gap. We already knew the escalatory clause, and other people were coming to us and we're like, this is how you write it up. We were teaching, again, synergy, right? Teaching the
Mhm.
other realtors how to do it so they could do it better. I'm
Look at
also a
that.
member of a group and it's the top producers and you have to be invited in. And we get together every other week. Now it's on Zoom, it's been in person, it's a variety of ways. And we all talk about what we're going through so that we can help each other figure out what
Mm.
to do. So most
Synergy.
recently, about 2 or 3 months ago, because of this whole insurance issue, we were realizing that we need to get what's called a 4 point beforehand. And so in a 4 point, it's an inspector goes in and takes information and pictures for the insurance company in 4 points of your house. It's HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roof. And that all
Mm.
has to pass is because now there's so few insurance companies in town. I mean, in Florida. Many of them either left and are not insuring
That's
houses or
true.
they've become
Okay.
insolvent, right? So they don't
Right.
have any money. So insurance has become really difficult and hard. So we realized you can have your inspections and get all your inspections done and negotiate all of that if you negotiate. But then you get your insurance and they say, hey, I need a 4 point. You go back and that 4 point fails. And you either have to have a new roof, a new water heater, new anything, all
Mm.
of this. So what I started doing is calling an inspector, bringing him in, have the seller pay for it. It's $150. They get the 4 point. I send it on to an insurance agent, not theirs, a different insurance agent. They tell me, okay, this can or cannot be insured. You need to do this, this, and this. So I tell
Right.
it to the seller, this is what you're either going to have to do in order to sell or just do it now. Like, it's going to come up, or just do it now. And many of them were just doing it now, right? Oh, good. I already know. And they know there's going to be other things that could come up in the inspection, but we've gotten this out of the way. So what I did was I went to my group of top producers. There were about 40 of us, some, but really only about 15 come on. And I gave them the number of the guy who was doing them, and he was doing them for these 4 points for insurance agents. And they're all like, oh, thank you, you can get a 4 point with your
Yeah.
inspector, but he specifically did this for insurance agents. So
Oh,
he knew. So
nice.
then they put it on the citizens form, all of them. And so they love it when, the insurance agents love it, and then you don't have to worry about that as a seller or even a buyer when they've already cleared it, and you have a clean W or a clean 4 point, and your buyer says, oh, I don't want to get a 4 point, I don't want to pay the 150. It's already there. Let's send that to to my insurance agent, and it's already cleared. They don't have to worry about that. Also, another great thing that I started teaching others to do was when they get their inspection, they're already getting the 4 point. I asked the buyer's agent, can I have that 4 point? Because I'm more of a listing agent. I do work with both a lot, but I
Hmm.
do probably 60/40, and 60% listing agent. And I tell them, give me that. So in their inspection period, I had this one instance. They said there's dry rot or dry wood termites, and we want you to fix that. I'm going to tell you a story right now. You cannot fix dry wood. You have to tint the house, and they spray this gas. You have to be out of it for like 3 or 4 days. It it just gases everything. You have to throw away a lot of things also. Then that
Man.
wood, then they're killed, and then they take the tint off. I know it won't happen, but theoretically, another set of swarming wood wood destroying termites, that same kind, can come back and start eating the house again. So it really doesn't do anything. I know this because
What?
I own a 100-year-old house that has these termites, and they swarm. And in the area where it's not even in Gainesville, it's outside of Gainesville, no termite company will have a termite policy for these type of termites, because they're like, whatever, they're just going to come back. We don't want to take your money. So I knew when that wood destroying organism company, pest control company, said, this is how much it is that you need to pay for this. I knew that they were just trying to make money off of that buyer. It wasn't my buyer.
Mm.
But instead, I said, you know what? I don't want to do this. This is why. They're not going to go away. They could come back in a year. They could go back in 6 months. This $4,000 treatment isn't going to do anything except take money out of my seller's pocket. Why don't we
Yeah.
look at that 4 point inspection? We looked at it and found out that the water heater needed to be replaced. So I said, listen, let's not worry about these termites. You know they're going to come back. Why don't we replace that water heater for you instead? Everybody was happy. They got a brand new
Oh,
water heater. They weren't even asking for it, even though in the inspection it said it was old.
it
They
was
didn't get that.
necessary.
So instead,
Yeah.
I renegotiated that so it was better for the buyer and for the seller. It ended up being $1,400 versus 4,000. And they were happy because they got that new water heater, because people don't know the price of things. So they just hear termites, and then they actually read about it, and they called them and they're like, oh yeah, you're right. It can come back. What's the point of it? And there's no policy for it. The subterranean termites, there's policies for, because they come from underground, but not the
Mm.
not the the flying ones, right?
Oh,
So the
wow.
dry rot ones. So
Oh, wow.
knowing that little bit of, you know how I know that? Because I go to inspections and I talk with the inspectors afterwards, not during, but afterwards. And I have a class every single week in my office, and we'll have either have inspectors there or the wood destroying organism inspectors, and they will talk about it. And again,
Okay.
I also own a house, right? A 100-year-old house. There's a neighborhood in Gainesville. It's 100-year-old houses. No company will have a policy there for these these type of termites, because they'll just come back because it's all wood. Florida, there's a
Hmm.
joke. You either have a house that has termites or a house that will have termites. But it all depends. There's two different type of termites plus all this other wood stuff. But when you know these things, because you talk to people, because you
Right.
read, because you listen, then you're able to use that to better inform your customers and make it better for your personal customer, your seller, and better for that buyer also,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. See, I had no idea about termites in Florida. Wow, that's a big eye opener now.
We're
But
a
I mean,
very humid state. They love to eat all the wood.
so that's
Yep.
what it is. The humidity that kind of attracts them to that environment, pretty much.
I mean,
Wow.
we have,
Okay.
yeah, we have a lot of trees, but also just the humidity. It's
Mm.
ample for their livelihood. So yeah.
The more you know, right?
right? But the more you
So,
know, the better you can negotiate for your customers.
correct, 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 correct. And that just speaks to the knowledge that you had to. I mean, the average agent probably definitely wouldn't have known that as far as them coming out, going in, and wasting money and that type of stuff. So,
Right,
the fact that you've been through that and you own a home, you already know that and you can pass that knowledge forward. So, I gotta
right.
applaud you for that. Tip my hat off to you. I mean, I think I would know the answer to this, but let me
Okay.
ask you this question. What is the most challenging aspect of the real estate industry, and not just with this specific market, but just overall, if you can, and if you have an example of an incident that kind of exemplifies this, can you please give us an example?
So I'm going to tell you what every realtor says they need more of is lead generation. It is very hard. I'm not
I
going to
wasn't
say for
expecting that.
me necessarily, right?
Right.
But in general, realtors come in and they're like, oh, I love looking at houses. They're so pretty. Well, who are you going to show these houses to? So you have to learn how to generate leads. Like I said, I took that sweat hogs. We went out and knocked on doors. We did everything. We bought leads. We got to know people. You connect. It's really all about connections. But I
Right.
mean, I even have realtors that are at my office and they're just like, I didn't get a call on floor today. Well, I sat floor for years and there were times that I didn't get calls. You can't bank on that. You have to be the one making calls and you have to make sure that's in your daily schedule. And even if it's 5 calls, right? There's some times where I only have time for 5 calls, but I'm calling someone else that I don't need to call yet, or maybe I know that they're buying or selling, but it's not like we had a scheduled call, is what I mean. I just know I need to call them to make sure they remember me, right?
Right.
I
There
need
you go.
so every day having a schedule and remember, like putting that schedule in your life, like your life. You know how it is. 18. There's something on TikTok right now. I watch TikTok. If you do something for 18 minutes every day for a year, you're going to be better off than doing that better off than 95% of others.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Music, foreign language, calling your leads, right? And a lot of people are like, who do I call? It doesn't matter. Did you work in another industry before you were a realtor? That's what I always ask them. Oh, you were a teacher. Why not call every teacher you ever worked with? Shoot, call your principal.
Mm.
You just it's going to be awkward. It's going to be weird, but call them. Just let them know, hey, remember when we taught that third grade class together? That was so much fun. Remember that crazy kid? Yeah, man, I love teaching, but I got into real estate. Oh, you got into real estate? You just have to let them know, "Hey,
That's a
you wanna
great
go get
segue.
coffee? I mean, do you wanna go get coffee one day? I've got there's this really cute coffee spot, it's brand new, it's right around this
Hmm.
listing I have." What do you mean listing I have?" "Oh, I'm a realtor." I mean, it's awkward, it's weird. You don't have to call them up and be like, "Hey, I'm just calling to catch up and let you know I'm in real estate." You just, like,
Yeah, just
throw
make
it
it
in
casual,
there.
right?
Or if you show up at the coffee shop with them, right? You have your real estate
Mm,
shirt on. It says, so and so. So I mean, oh, what is that? You're in real estate now? Oh
yep.
yeah, I just want to
Sparks
let
the
you know. You're not
conversation.
calling. Hey, do you have a house that you want to buy, or do you want to sell your house? You don't have to be a nerd, or a dork. Just
Right.
you got to connect with people. That's who you call. Right. If there's somebody that came in, you decided to do an open house for somebody, again, you're new,
Mm,
or maybe you've been in for, 2.5 years and you do an open house for somebody else and you had one person walked in and you somehow got their number, why aren't you calling them every once in a while? You don't have to call them on the daily, but put them on your schedule to call them.
right,
You
right, right.
cannot sit there and not and wait for that phone to call. You have to be the one to call them. So that also means that you're probably becoming, you mentioned community in some of these questions.
Hmm.
As a realtor, you need to be involved with the community. So I'm on the United Way board. I was once the president of the Women's Council of Realtors. I was on the JCs, which was the Junior Chamber of Commerce. I, pay for a lot of tickets to go to a lot of events, whether it's a golf tournament or, raising money for leukemia or raising money for heart disease or whatever. I go to these events. Now, some of them, it's all realtors, but again, there's that synergy, right? But
Hmm.
other ones, I'm meeting people who are not realtors. And I'm not meeting them to necessarily build my clientele there, right? But now they're knowing me as a top realtor and a top broker, or at least someone who's community involved. Shoot,
Right.
three
Yeah.
years ago, I went to see Dance Alive, which is a local professional. ballet company, and they were raising money for a show for like their season and shows coming up. And I was invited by one of my realtors. So I went with him and I bought, how they always have like those auctions, whatever. You put your
Mhm.
name in, you say how much you're going to pay for it. I bought a cleaning service. It was like I don't know, it was a not just cleaning, but organizing service. I was like, well, I'll either use this for me or I'll give it to one of my customers. She ended
Mm.
up, I ended up meeting her, the organizing lady, and she was like, I just love that you are giving to local arts, right?
Right.
That's all. I've had about seven-ish, this was 3 years ago, buyers and, well, mostly sellers from her. I know that's not a lot, but that's a good amount.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
$150 auction item that I did. First, I got my grandfather passed away, the Cuban. He passed away. I acquired all of his stuff. It was way too heavy for me emotionally to deal with it. She
Right.
came over, helped me organize it, gave it to me for it. That should have been like a $700, you know, event or whatever. And she did it all for that 150. And I've had at least seven, if I can't remember, maybe more, and continued business off of her.
Mm. I mean, you can't
I
complain about
mean,
that then, right?
you can't complain about that, right? And they're all sellers, and I love sellers, and they're difficult. They are all older, and they all need organization in their house,
Right.
right? So she has to organize her house and get it ready to sell, and then I sell it. And then I've
Look at
given
that.
her a ton of business also. So this is a great relationship that we've had together,
Yeah.
all just from being in the community, right?
Yeah.
So whatever the point of that was, I think you do have to have a daily routine that you follow, as hard as it is. Just make sure it's in there, and that daily routine has to be lead generation, because that is, I really truly believe that's the hardest for the newer, and it's hard for people in that middle range that we said 3 to 7 years, and it
Mhm.
still can be hard with a changing market, right? When your buyers are going away or your sellers or don't want to sell because now the rates are 7 and they bought this and they have a rate of 3%, and their house is, say 2,500 square feet with a pool that they bought for 350, now it's worth 650. They could make twice as much, but now
Easily.
there's only an 1,800 square foot house with no
Exactly.
pool,
Yep, got
and
that
it's
trade-off.
priced at 500,000
Mhm.
at a 7%. So now they have no
Woo.
pool, it's smaller, and it's more money. So now all of your sellers aren't selling. Instead, they're calling you, hey, do you have a repairman? Do you have a handyman? Do you have a roofer?
Mhm.
At least they're calling you. But now you're like, okay, I need to change it. So now I need to call these other people, right? I need to start calling other people, because now the automatic calls after 10 years aren't coming in. You're still getting referrals from your Google
Right.
reviews or whatever reviews you have, your past customers. But I have a lot of my sellers are coming to me, or past buyers coming to me, and they're saying, I don't want to sell my house. It's great. I want to go buy another one. I want to leverage my house and buy another one.
There you go. There
Right.
you
But if
go.
you're not calling them or not making an effort to have them remember you, or meeting new people and being out there and being, you know, out of your comfort zone sometimes, it's just not going to happen for you. You're not going to be, it's going to be much harder for you. And
I love that you
I'm actually a shy person that needs time
Mm,
on my own. On
me
Friday
too.
nights, I
Mm,
don't love going out Friday night. I need
me
Friday
too,
night to
Kristen.
decompress. I want to be
Mhm.
with my kids at my house, watching TV in the
Yep.
pool. We got a movie on. We're on Disney Plus. I want that. And then Saturday night, I'll go out with you, right?
Right. Oh,
Saturday
that's the
night, I'll
same
go
with
out to
me.
that event or that party or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, people think just because I speak on a mic or I'm outgoing that I'm that person. No, I'm more reserved, like to stay inside.
oh,
But you
yeah,
you have to come out of your shell when you have to take care of business.
exactly.
Two key things I took away from what you pretty much accomplished to kind of solve that obstacle in a way. Top of mind awareness and the law of averages. If you're consistently reaching
Hmm.
out to people or consistently making those phone calls, the law of averages say you make so many phone
Yes.
calls, you will eventually get some in your favor. And then staying top of mind, consistently calling people, having your name relevant in their
Hmm.
mind. So that way, if they're thinking of certain services, they know to call Kristen. You see what I'm saying? So I,
Right.
I love
Right.
that. I love that you spoke to that.
Yeah.
I wanna ask something about something that you brought up a few times, and I just recently thought about it when you said it recently. The insurance in Florida. You
Sure.
spoke on this, and I doing some show prep a while ago. I saw an article that says something about an insurance company leaving Florida. I ignored it because it was irrelevant to me at the time, but now that you mention it, I'm like, wow, that's what she's talking about. So, can you speak on the changes that's happening in regards to the insurance in the state of Florida a little bit,
So
please?
that's a whole other podcast, and
I
I'm a
get it.
talker, so I'll try to keep it short.
Okay.
But between about 2012 and 15, there was an attorney, and I'm not talking bad about attorneys, just so you know. Okay, but there was
Hmm.
an attorney who realized he could make a lot of money
Uh oh.
off of insurance companies. Okay. So what he did was he got with some roofers and said, and this is like a shortened version of it. There's a lot more with it. But
Okay.
basically he would say, hey, your insurance company only paid you 19,000. I could get you 20,000, right? So let's go sue your insurance company for 1,000 to put in your pocket. But he would charge the insurance company, say, 80,000, right? And then there's this rule that's no more, right? That he could continue to charge the insurance company. So when the insurance company finally paid out, that owner got 1,000, but he got say 170,000. And he did this, and all of these other attorneys in the state of Florida started doing this. And then they started getting with the
Wow.
roofers, and the roofers would literally go in vans and canvass an entire neighborhood and said, "Hey, your 22-year-old roof, we can get that replaced because there was a storm 5 years ago, and I'm up here and I'm looking, I'm seeing the damages from the storm. No, it's a 22-year-old roof. They're not lasting. Even 30-year shingles do not last that long in the state of Florida. We have too much sun, too much rain, too much humidity, and those darn termites, right? So
Mm.
they don't ever last, but they're basically saying, I'm going to get you a free roof from your insurance company, and I'll make sure, because once a claim is put in, it's really hard for the insurance company to fight that claim, because an attorney will come in and fight it against it. And then there's all these companies that'll come in and fight even harder. So again, I'm not talking about it bad about attorneys or roofers, but there was a lot of really ugly stuff. And then
Right.
we have hurricanes, we have massive storms, we've got sinkholes. I hate to say that word, but we've got
I've heard.
lime rock. We've got a lot of other stuff that happens. Okay,
Hmm.
we're like California, just we're like the end of the you know we're going to fall off at some point, hopefully nowhere in my lifetime, but I mean, we're basically hanging on by the panhandle,
All right.
so it's already tough for insurance companies. And all of these insurance companies, due to this, started becoming insolvent. And then other bigger insurance companies started pulling out and saying, I am not insuring homeowners in Florida anymore. And if I am, they have to have a
Wow.
brand new roof, or their roof can't be more than 5 years old, right? Now it's changed a little, but there were a moment there that if you're selling your house and your roof was 10 years old, even though it's 25, 30-year shingles, you had to replace that roof in order to sell it, because no insurance company would touch it. So it went from, say, 45 insurance companies to maybe seven. But if you have this,
Whoa.
I mean, okay, so maybe 13. But if you had this
Still,
age
yeah.
roof, only seven. Or if you had this type of electrical panel, only four. Or if you had this type of water heater, only seven. It was like less and less
Ah.
and less. So then all of a sudden you're having to replace your roof, you have to place your water heater, or you have to change out your electrical panel or your plumbing. And all, I mean, we've always had something, but now it was almost everything. Again, those 4 points, so it was
Mhm.
everything. And if you had a certain age of a house, they weren't insuring. So Citizens is owned by the government. Most of our insurance is owned by Citizens. So if there's a master mate or a major catastrophe again,
Ooh.
we homeowners in the state of Florida, yeah, we're in a
Oh my
tough
goodness.
spot.
Oh my
So
goodness.
insurance, so also that Surfside condo that fell and killed all those people in Miami, horrible tragedy that happened.
Yeah.
So condo insurance companies, they have a master plan, right?
Mhm.
And those master plans, I will tell you an instance. We have our office that we own is a part of a condo complex. And together, everybody, the insurance rate was something like $4,000, and everybody shared that cost, right?
Mhm.
It went up this year to $43,000.
Ooh.
4 to 43,000. Now, granted, we have to go out and get other insurance, and now we have all of these other fees. But can you imagine being a homeowner? A lot of people, they're not reading. They're getting on what we call next door. I don't know if y'all have next door in your state, but it's like everybody get on and complain about the neighbor or talk about the beautiful neighborhood or whatever's coming up. But mostly
Mm-hmm.
it's just to complain. Unfortunately, that's how our
Yeah.
people are. But they go on.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's like every other day, someone else gets on and says, "Oh, this insurance company's about to drop me," or they raise my rates. It's everyone. So my
Oh
normal
man.
rates for a brand new home about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, was $400. That's all for a brand new home because not that everything's new. Now it's around $1,000 a year
Oh
for a brand new
no.
home. So imagine a 60-year-old house that went from about 12 to 1500 to now in the 4,000s. So homeownership is really hard, but people are
Mm,
flocking to Florida.
yeah.
So it's not stopping, but it is
Yeah.
causing a little bit of a pause. And it is really hard for homeowners because, and everything's going up, inflation,
Right.
everything,
Right.
utilities are
Yeah.
going up, you know, groceries are going up, gas is fluctuating, but always going up.
Mm-hmm.
So, prices of homes, our rates, everything. So we are seeing a lot. State of Florida is a little harder than other places, but we're seeing a rise in everything. And so let me go back to that. It's becoming a rental nation. How many people can
Mm.
afford the home ownership? Is that a good
That's-
thing? No, but if you're an investor and you start now, right?
It's the
When is the
perspective,
best
yeah.
time to buy, Kevin? When's the best time to buy?
Right now.
Yeah, there
Not
we
now,
go.
right now.
Right now. Yeah.
Love it,
Right
love it.
now. Yeah.
No, but I am so glad you shared that. That is key information right here at the closing table that myself and our audience needs to know because that's insurance on homes. I mean, it's necessary. So, I mean, if your
Yeah.
selection is, dwindling down or they're dropping people, that's
Or just
information you need to
getting
know.
higher. Yes. Now, when
Correct,
they
correct.
drop you, you have to go find another. But in some places, you can find the same amount, the same rate you were before, but it
Hmm.
still freaks people out. And if they're not
I
rating
bet.
or not, if their realtor isn't reaching out to them to just, again, reaching out and saying, "Hey, have your, have you heard about the insurance rates in Florida?" No? Well, let me just tell you so you can be in the know. I'm here for your information so that you can know what to do. You don't have to do anything right now, but when it happens to you, I want you to know you can call me, and I have 3 insurance agents who can help you find something better if this happens to you. Why
There you
and why
go.
can't that be the way that you reach out to people, right?
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know, right? Hey, Kristen, I want you to take this time right now. If you can think of anything, I like for our guests to pretty much share what inspires them or motivates them. And by that I mean a book, a movie, quote, or even just a philosophy that you live by. Can you share with us what helped change or shape your perspective personally, professionally, so that we can also change and be inspired ourselves?
Well, I don't know. I'm inspired by art, by beauty, by nature, by
Mm,
everything out there, things that are beautiful to me. I mean, a color of the moon that night when you're looking up, or a
yeah, me too.
sunshine or a sunrise. I mean, it's gorgeous. Everything that God has created for us is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm
That's a
inspired
fact.
by that. So,
Hmm.
I love that. But I'm also inspired by, other people and I mean, think about being a human. We were just we're put on this earth however you believe we are, and we started off with using rocks and sticks as
Hmm.
utilizing them as tools to eat, to hunt, to do. Where have we come so far? So that alone, just like life, is just like beautiful to me. So I meet a lot of people, and I go through this myself. So this is one little saying that I got recently, but it's been around. I actually was looking through my phone. I was like, oh my gosh, I have a picture of it on my phone from like 2 years ago. This I really love. I love Brene Brown. I love anybody who talks about just being, vulnerability, being the best of who you can be. So I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but really, I love it. You get into something, whether it's real estate or anything else, and you always want to be perfect, right? And if you're not
Mm,
perfect, you're just trash, right? A lot of people
right.
think that. I love to tell everybody done is better than perfect.
It's so simple but
Yeah,
accurate.
it's,
Oh
I
my
mean, it's
goodness.
just something that, like, I hear so many, again, I'm a broker, so I'm not a realtor. I am, but I'm not at that newbie realtor stage anymore where you're like, oh, I got to do this and this. We have to wear a lot of hats, but there's so many people that
Right.
are afraid of podcasts, pictures, videos, doing it, all of these little things, marketing, calling people, lead generation. It's a fear that holds us back, right? But if you just get it done, who cares about perfect? You're getting it done because the first time you do it, it's going to suck. Just
Correct.
it's okay. If you're great and you do it perfect the first time, that was luck of the draw and good for you. Let's get on to the second one. But if you just think, I don't have to be perfect, let me do it, done, I got it done. How good do you feel when you do something that you were scared to do or didn't want to do and you get it done? Working out in general, right?
Oh my
Going on that run
goodness.
and finishing that
Mm.
run, you're like, man, I felt good. That felt good. I'm so glad I did that
I'm so
because you
glad.
got
Yeah.
it done. That's
Kristen,
all. That's
you
all.
are touching on. It's like you speaking to my life. I love this part because you're literally speaking other creative things that I do personally, and I try to share with other people. Like especially in the
Mhm.
age that we're in with TikTok and social media, everybody just shows their perfect life. No one has any
Yep. Yep.
flaws. Forget all
Yes.
that. Like just do
Yes.
it. Like start, just get it done. And that's the mindset I take too. When I'm working with other people, sometimes people don't see it the same way. But I love that you just said that. I mean, that was so simple, but it was so spot on, Kristen. Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
I go by that. I think it's and think about all the TikTok, Facebook posts, whatever that you saw that were terrible. They're getting it done though. They're getting it done though. And you know what? That might have been like their first or second. And a year from now, you're gonna be like, I'm following that crazy dude. That was
Right.
hilarious. Or that was beautiful. So
Well said, well played. Thank you so much, Kristen, for pulling
you're
up a
welcome,
chair to the
Kevin.
closing table and being a guest. At this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, please do so now.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm Kristen Rabell from Rabell Realty Group, Rabell. You can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. You'll always look it up as buy, sell, rebel. It's either
Mhm.
hashtag or at symbol buy, sell, rebel. And then, easy to call me at 352-213-6760. No matter where you are, if you're just want to know how to be better in real estate, you can call me or you can email info@buysellrebel.com and I will help you. I mean, state by state, it's a little hard. I don't know all your rules and I do like to follow
Right.
rules. I think following rules are great. Then you can break them, right?
I love that. I love that.
But you got to
I
know them
love that.
first, right? You got to
Yep.
know them first. But yeah, you can. I would love to help you in your real estate career wherever you are because I love talking real estate. But also, if you're looking to buy or sell in Gainesville, Florida, or you want to invest in a great college town, also please call me because I would love to help you.